The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe has so far turned out to be an amazing follow-up to the original game. Not only did it surpass my expectations, but it completely blew my mind how much new content was added, as I went in completely blind. But, despite the fact that this game appears more polished off and clean than the previous version, it is far from that. In fact, I'd argue that it's incredibly far more broken than the previous game, and all because of one reason: the jump glitch. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me show you right here. If you go to the expo hall after beating the game, you can once again find the jump circle. Now this is important. You must have at least one jump left. I have not seen or tested it without any jumps, so it may work without them. But from what I've heard in comment sections, this is not possible. So, you go inside this jump circle here, and without even needing to jump, you restart the game in the menu here. Now, you can jump anywhere, and unlimited times as well. It should be noted that if you re-enter the expo hall, you can jump outside the jump circle, but your jumps will count and be subtracted from the total. Now, with this jumping, we can literally break the game. While recording footage for this video, I randomly fell through the map on many different occasions, for no clear reason whatsoever. I fell through here, 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 and here. This game was not designed for jumping, and there are consequences for that. But without further ado, let me show you some cool things I found. This glitch was mainly showcased to find this Easter egg, where you enter this vent here and enter the audio tape room. If you jump over these boxes here, you find this, which is an Easter egg referencing Dark Souls and/or Elden Ring. But jumping opens up so many more doors than just this. First of all, in the escape pod ending, there are many, and I mean many, things to explore with this jumping. If you don't know the escape pod ending, I suggest doing a quick search on YouTube, as I will not explain the vanilla ending here. First of all, if you end up in this staircase hallway, these windows aren't windows. In fact, I'll show you several instances of this throughout the game, but it's very interesting here, as this is the only area where an office window can be jumped through. If you jump through it like so, you are taken into this dark, eerie office, pretty much the exact same layout as seen in the beginning of each run. There's a few interesting things to note here. First of all, you can clip through this door here with a little hallway hiding behind it. There is nothing beyond here, and walking past will cause you to fall endlessly until the game restarts you, but it's cool nonetheless. Also, you cannot go back into the escape pod room once you enter these office spaces. This involves a game mechanic the creators talked about for the doorways, where they act more like portals than actual doors, but I'm not really qualified enough to talk about that. But basically, it allowed the creators to better and more seamlessly attach two areas together, without having to worry about different assets or environments interfering with one another. Anyway, this means that walking back through the window will just lead you to fall to your death, because there is not a door/portal back to the main area. The narrator does not and will never address you in this area. In Shazez's, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, out of bounds secret video, they show a fully rendered area below the escape pod area you start in, which is supposedly inaccessible.
If we take the camera below the floors that you're allowed to get to, you can see that there are multiple floors that are actually rendered, and some that are even labeled.
But I am here today to show you that this area is not only visible thanks to this jumping, but you can also walk in it as well. Getting here is mostly just hope and luck, as it is really hard for me to say how exactly I did it, but if you fiddle with the controls enough as shown here, you should be able to glitch out of this office window, here, and into the area below. Again, the narrator doesn't say anything or congratulate you, but it's still fascinating to explore. I walked to the very bottom, which after 2 floors gets very dark and practically impossible to see, but I got there. And there's nothing really there. It is cool being able to look up and see everything above, but there isn't any obvious secrets here. This space where the elevator usually is, does nothing, and going in just leads you falling to your death. Of all the out-of-bound tricks possible, this was the coolest to me, as I have yet to see anyone else do it, and I find it fascinating that I can enter this area in the vanilla game. Now back to the main office. You can find several windows that you can jump into. First of all, at this corner here, you can jump into these windows here. This shows that these windows aren't even really windows at all, they are just holes in the wall looking at a white room, which really surprised me. This same type of window can also be entered in the two doors room as well, on both sides. Not all of these white windows can be jumped into, but it's interesting nonetheless. You can also jump on top of countless file cabinets and other objects and glitch into the ceiling. This mostly lets you see other rendered areas in your vicinity, but you can find some really cool things, and overall just get to better understand the layout of the map. I'll show you some of the footage I got from these ceiling glitches, and it's pretty cool. The coolest ceiling glitch I found was in the insanity ending, as if you glitch right here on top of this little box, at some point, as you may know, Stanley will begin floating and force himself upwards. And when he did, this happened.
Began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself...
Again, nothing absolutely groundbreaking, but I thought this was pretty cool. Now yes, you can fall down in the monitor room with jumping, but you can also do it in the vanilla game without jumping, which is an ending in the main game, both with and without the bucket. So I won't really show that here, but I will share a little Easter egg that isn't too well known. If you get through the monitor room over to the area in front of the lift, and simply wait about 20 seconds or so, this gate will reopen. But I can jump, so I'm just going to jump over it to save time. If you walk back to the button for the lights and press it, this happens. I just love this Easter egg and want everyone else to experience it for themselves. It might just be me, but this Easter egg in the original game holds a special place in my heart. Oops. Oh, and here's that ending I was talking about, but you can learn about that on your own time.
Aha! You've made it to the...
Another common glitch you will encounter when jumping is falling to the bottom of an area. If you fall onto solid ground, you have to restart to get out. But in some situations like the escape pod rooms, you will fall into a sort of void, where after 30 seconds or so the game will automatically restart you in the area you were in. Sometimes you respawn at the beginning of an area, sometimes at the beginning of the game, it just depends. I have a lot of footage from these areas, so I will show you some of the footage from each of the areas I was at the bottom of, but it is less interesting than you would think because it gets kind of repetitive. This is the room before you enter the mind control facility. This is the bottom of the mind control facility itself, the big monitor at least. This is the bottom of the bucket intervention room when you take it down the lift in the maintenance room. This is the bottom of the audio tape room. This is the bottom of the warehouse, which can also be found without jumping by crouching here after unplugging the phone without the bucket. This is the bottom of the final room in the freedom ending. It's kinda sad that if you do this, you are simply unable to be free because you failed down the map, but you knew what you were getting yourself into. There were a few other areas I did this to as well, but for sake of time I'll skip them. While recording this game footage, I happened to see this Easter egg a couple times, where you see a man walking in the hallway right here. Each time I'd try to glitch out of bounds to see if there was anything interesting, but the best I could see was this, so there's not much to report there. Another random thing I found was when I got on top of the gate after unplugging the phone without the bucket, and landed on this part here. Literally nothing happened and I couldn't open any of the doors, but I was still glad I checked it out. I was also having a fun time exploring the Adventureline confusion ending. First of all, when he shows the employee video camera room, this is the actual room. You can jump down right here and see for yourself. Everything is here. The buttons didn't work of course, but the layout and all the screens are the same, which I'm sure answers a tiny question in the back of everyone's mind. I was having a blast in the Adventureline part of this ending. I loved exploring every possible little thing I could glitch into, until of course I glitched to the floor and gave up. But I now know that if you go through these windows during the confusion line, the usual narration and endings do not occur. It is just silence until you decide to restart. Now there are a lot more things I recorded, but a lot of things get repetitive very quick, as I showed off everything of value here. but I am not only guessing I missed a lot of Easter eggs, but I also know I missed a few I didn't get to due to time. I recorded this footage over 3 hours as I found footage basically myself playing every ending again, sometimes multiple times due to falling to the bottom of the map or just falling through the world for no reason whatsoever. But I'd like to end the video here. I mentioned earlier that you can get to the bottom of the warehouse here even without needing to jump, and there's this cool area you may or may not know about. It's just a bright white room reminiscent of those windows I showed you earlier, and at some point you hear a basketball bouncing, and then the music really kicks in. I'd like to think that if the makers of this game make another in a similar fashion, that they will make some of these glitches into their own respective ending. Or hey, maybe for some holiday special, they'll play into all these jump glitches and update the game with some narration in these areas. But realistically, that won't happen. But if I had to guess, these areas and being able to jump into them will be left into the game for us nerds who love to explore these maps in new and unique ways. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this little deep dive into the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. I hope you have a good rest of your day.